This is a collaboration between Sports Hardcore
and AneeshChess. Both channels have their respective links in the description.
The attacking infantry advances, their elephants already having broken the defensive line. The king tries to retreat, but the enemy flanks him from the rear. Escape is impossible. This isn't a real war, nor is it just a game. Over the 1,500 years of its existence, chess has been known as a military strategy tool, a metaphor for human affairs, and a measure of genius. Welcome back, everybody. I'm your host, Shoria. You are all hardcore fans. This is Sports Hardcore, and welcome back to a new video. Here, this is going to be a collaboration between me and my good friend AneeshChess. Please go like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications for his channel, and also like and subscribe and turn on post notifications on this channel. This video is also going to be on Aneesh's channel, but also check his amazing chess and Latin content. He is a great teacher and a brilliant chess player. But without further ado, let's get into the documentary. There are many opinions on where chess came from. The time and the place is quite disputed, but the generally accepted opinion is that chess was invented in India in the 8th century, or at least a form of it. There were two forms, the earlier Chaturanga and the later Chaturang or Shatranj.
It changed over the centuries by the Arabs, the Persians, and then ultimately by the medieval Europeans, who changed the pieces' names and appearances to resemble the English court.
How Chaturanga evolved into Shatranj and then into chess is fairly unclear. Some historians say that Chaturanga, perhaps played with dice on a 64 square board, accepted to be not dissimilar to today's modern chess 64 square board, gradually transformed into Chaturang or Shatranj, as mentioned earlier, a two-player game popular in northern India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and southern parts of Central Asia after 600 CE. Shatrang resembled Chaturanga, but an added new piece, a Firzan or a counselor, which had nothing to do with any troop formation. A game of Chaturang could be won either by eliminating all of the opponent's piece, barring the king, or by ensuring the capture of the king. The initial positions of the pawns and knights have not changed, but there were considerable regional and temporal variations for the other pieces.
Chess spread to the east, north, south, and west, taking on sharply different characteristics. In the east, it was carried by Buddhist pilgrims, Silk Road traders, and others. It was transformed into a game with inscribed discs, and they were often placed on the intersections of the lines rather than what we know as within the squares. About 1750, and chess reaches China, and by the 11th century it had come to Japan and Korea. Chinese chess, the most popular version of the Eastern game, has 9 files and 10 ranks, as well as a boundary, the river. Between the 5th and 6th ranks, that limits access to the enemy camp and makes the game slower than its western cousin.
A form of Chaturanga or Shatrang made its way into Europe by way of Persia, the Byzantine Empire, and perhaps most importantly of all, the expanding Arabian Empire from the Middle East. The oldest recorded game, found in 10th century documents, was played between a Baghdad historian believed to be a favourite of 3 successive caliphs or Muslim rulers and a pupil. Muslims brought chess to North Africa, Sicily, and Spain by the 10th century. Eastern Slavs spelt it to the Kiev and Rus at about the same time. The Vikings carried the game as far as Iceland and England, and are believed responsible for the most famous collection of chessmen. 78 walrus ivory pieces of various sets that were found on the Isle of Lewis in the Outer Hebrides in 1831 and date from the 11th or 12th century.
The modern rules and appearance of pieces evolved very slowly, with widespread regional variations. By 1300s, for example, the pawn had acquired the ability to move 2 squares on its first turn, rather than only 1 time as it did in Shatranj. But this rule didn't win the general expectations throughout Europe for more than 300 years.
The appearance of pieces has alternated between simple and ornate since Chaturanga times. The simple design of pieces before 600 CE led to figurative sets depicting animals, warriors, and noblemen. But Muslim sets of the 9th to 12th centuries were often non-representational and made of simple clay or carved stone, following the Islamic prohibition of images of living creatures. The return to simpler symbolic Shatranj pieces is believed to have spread the game's popularity by making sets easier to make and by redirecting the player's attention from the intricate pieces to the game itself.
The popularity of chess has for the past 2 centuries been closely tied to the competition, usually in the form of 2-player chess matches for the title of World Champion. The title was unofficial until 1866, but the widespread interest in the game began until 50 years later. The major international events were a series of 6 matches held in 1834 between the leading French and British players, Charles de la Bourdonnais of Paris and Alexander MacDonald of London, of which ended with a newspaper and analysed in books following Bourdonnais' death in 1840. He was succeeded by Staton after any matches that gained international attention during Paris-Charles Fournier de Saint-Amand of France in 1843. This was a match that also helped introduce the stakes competition, since Staton won the £100 put up by spectators.
FIDE, the organizer of the Chess World Championship and the governing body of chess as a whole, also took over the Women's World Championship and Biennial Olympiad Team Championships, which originated in the 1920s. In addition, the Federation developed new championship titles, particularly for junior players in various age groups. It also created a system for recognizing top players by arithmetic rating and by titles based on tournament performance. The highest title after World Champion is International Grandmaster, of whom there are now more than 500 in the world. This was an excellent opportunity to feminism and inclusivity.
Early chess players recognized that a typical game could be divided into 3 parts, each with its own characteristics and priorities. The opening stage, when a player develops the pieces from their starting squares, a middle game stage, in which plans are conceived and carried out, and an endgame stage, following several changes and captures in which players, with their superior chances, try to convert an advantage into a victory.
One person famous for refining and creating new techniques in chess was Wilhelm Steinitz, an Austrian-American chess master. Among Steinitz's greatest followers were 2 Germans, Emanuel Lasker and Siegbert Tarrasch. Lasker dethroned Steinitz as world champion in 1994 and refined his theory of defensive play. He showed that even cramped positions yielded strong counter-attacking chances. Also, he was the first player to appreciate the psychological nature of chess and found that by accepting allegedly bad positions or one with merely inferior pawn structures, he placed a psychological burden on many of his opponents by encouraging their optimism. His practical approach to the game enabled Lasker to hold the World Championship title until 1921. But as a later world champion, Max Euwe said of him, "It is not possible to learn much from him. One can only stand and wonder." Thank you guys for listening and watching. I hope you really enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time, perhaps maybe with another collaboration. Let us know in the comments if you like this. Like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications for my channel and Aneesh's channel. And I hope you really enjoyed this, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.